Hello everyone, it's me, John Lorden, here again with another episode of BrainScratch Searchlight. I have to give a quick thank you to Cindy for telling me about this case. She lives in the area where this case went down. And this is one of those cases that I appreciate being able to cover because there's a lot of kind of small local media on this case, but nothing for major media in terms of coverage. As a matter of fact, there's only one other video that I could find on YouTube about this case, and it's basically just a memorial video. So I'm going to have a link to that in the description box below. But today we are looking into the case of Tiffani Amber Streling. She was last seen May 17th, 2015 near Oakley Avenue in Burleigh, Idaho. She's 5'4", 137 pounds, with chin-length blonde hair with a blonde streak in the front. I think she also, her hair looks like it's actually dark, the base of her hair. So we're going to hear a couple of different versions on her hair, but blue eyes, she wears green glasses. She has a pierced lip and right eyebrow. As a matter of fact, you can see it in some of the photos here. And she has tattoos on her right shoulder of 2 footprints and on her left forearm, half of a heart. So let's learn a little bit about Burleigh, Idaho. Burleigh is a city in Cassia and Minidoka counties in the southern portion of the U.S. state of Idaho. The population was 10,345 at the 2010 census. So we can see an image of it here on the map, and population of around 10,000, relatively small town. I'm sure one of those types of areas where a lot of people tend to know each other. Heading over to the NamUs profile, let's see what we learn from here. Tiffani Amber Streling, last seen May 16th, 2015. She would now be 23 years old, white female. Looks like we got about the same information in terms of height and weight. Let's check out the case circumstances. Missing from Burleigh, Idaho. Streling, 21, was last heard from around 6 p.m. Saturday, May 16th, 2015, when she was walking in the 1700 block of Oakley Avenue in Burleigh from her boyfriend's house to a friend's house. Now, there's a couple of different versions of the story from what I can see, but the main gist of it is she had a bit of a disagreement with her boyfriend. I believe he had learned that she was still having some type of relationship with a previous boyfriend that was actually the father of her daughter, a daughter that unfortunately passed away very, very young. So something around that seemed to get everyone upset. She was arguing with her boyfriend. She said, "I'm leaving," and she was walking to her friend's house, which supposedly was not that far of a walk. And unfortunately, she was never seen. She never made it there. Here for physical description, they note that her hair color is actually brown and that she has dark hair with blonde stripes. And that seems to line up with most of the photos that I've seen about her. Blue eyes, she has a scar on her abdomen. She has a scar on her left arm. Tattoo on the arm with half a heart and a tattoo of 2 feet on her back. So matching information there. Same info on the piercing in her lip and her right eyebrow. This is also noting that she was wearing fake nails when she went missing. And here we get some different information. Orthopedic nail or pin, plate or screw. Healed fractured arm, lower left. So sometimes that information becomes important, particularly if they're looking at bodies that have been discovered and they want to do a quick analysis of, is this that missing person or not? When they have these types of items in their body, it makes the identification process go a little smoother and a little quicker. In terms of clothing and accessories, black hoodie with zipper pockets displaying the Arrow logo, dark blue jeans, white tennis shoes with pink laces is what she was wearing on her feet, pierced ears, eyeglasses, and she had a gold necklace with a heart on it. No transportation methods are noted here. Now, unfortunately, it looks like NamUs does not have dental information, does not have DNA, and does not have fingerprint information, which I'm a little curious about because from what I've read, she's had a couple of scrapes with the law. It doesn't seem like anything too major, but I would be hopeful that they might have taken her fingerprints. I don't know if she was ever officially charged with anything or booked, or if she was just given warnings, but at this point, it looks like NamUs does not have fingerprint information on her either. Here, of course, they have a few photos of her, and there's contact information, but there is no one listed for the investigating agency, which is kind of weird. We'll hear of a couple names as we're going through the news articles. There is a phone number. Of course, I will have that contact information in the description box below, as well as a case number, which is always helpful if you are going to call in some information on this case. So here is the Charlie Project, and once again, they do an amazing job there with getting these composites together in multiple photos so you can get a really good sense of what she looks like. And let's learn a little bit about the details of her disappearance. Once again, they're noting that she was last seen in the 1700 block of Oakley Avenue in Burleigh, Idaho at 6 p.m. On May 17th, so we're getting the date sliding around here a little bit. She was walking 3 blocks from her boyfriend's house to a friend's residence at the time. So you're talking about a relatively short walk. Of course, I think after you look into this case, you're going to wonder if she ever actually left her boyfriend's house of her own accord. But let's learn a little bit more about James Allen McLaws, who was Straling's boyfriend at the time of her disappearance, is considered a person of interest in her case. Now, from what I've read in terms of the news articles, that has actually flip-flopped. At one point, he was certainly considered a person of interest. His lawyer clearly stated it, but I'm also seeing comments from law enforcement saying they don't consider him a person of interest. Now, I don't know if they're doing that because of the way their investigation is going, if that's some type of method that they're using, or if they have some type of alibi for him. From what I've seen and how this story plays out, there's not really a chance for him to have a very strong alibi. She went missing. He supposedly started looking for her right away. He filed a missing persons report on that night. So I'm not sure how strong of an alibi they might have on him, and I haven't seen anything listed about it. In July of 2015, he posted bond for an unrelated drug offense and was ordered to wear an ankle monitor until trial. We're going to hit some news articles and learn a little bit more about how that went. But here we get some interesting information. Straling had also been secretly seeing an ex-boyfriend, Jordan DeFilippis, up until shortly before she disappeared. They had a daughter together, but the child had died in 2013. After McLaws proposed marriage to her on May 15th, Straling ended her relation with DeFilippis. The two men had a confrontation the following day, then took a drive alone together to talk. DeFilippis stated he told McLaws about their relationship, and then McLaws dropped him off. Day after that, Straling disappeared, and I'm not sure if it's the day after that. Some of the information I'm reviewing makes it sound like it's actually that same day, but I can't be 100% positive. Since her disappearance, her cell phone has been turned off. Of course, her family says that it's uncharacteristic of her to leave without some type of warning, and they believe that she would have called home if she was able to. Case remains unsolved, and it seems like there's a lot of people wondering what happened to her. So magicvalley.com is a local paper for the area, and they have done a lot of coverage, not only about her case, but about what has gone on with her boyfriend. And we're going to jump through all that. I just want to give you the info that's available out there. Unfortunately, because of the way that they've been reporting on this, it really, in my mind, casts a strong look into her boyfriend and his background and kind of makes him seem like he might be involved in this. Now, they're not directly saying that. It's just the information that comes out and some of the things that he does really, it's given, I have to think twice about it. Let me just put it that way. So let's see what's happening here. May 31st, 2015. So this is only about 2 weeks after she went missing. Family continues to search for missing Burleigh woman in Twin Falls. Tiffani Streling was last heard from on May 16th. That day, she walked off in the 1700 block of Oakley Avenue in Burleigh. Her mother, Melissa Belt, said they had plans to have dinner in the evening and that Tiffani called around 1 p.m. to say she'd make it to dinner along with her boyfriend. 2 investigators have been working on the case nonstop since it came in. We're looking at this as if there is foul play. We don't know that at this point. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of info on where investigators were with it just a few weeks into it. Fast forwarding to June 11th, 2015, family starts fundraiser to aid search for missing Burleigh woman. The missing Burleigh woman's photo has been plastered at churches, gas stations, and bulletin boards from mini Cassia to Twin Falls, and the family continues to search for her, offering a $5,000 reward for information leading to her return. Now, Tiffani Straling's father, William Straling, and stepmother, Stephanie Albert, have started selling T-shirts to raise money for travel costs of their search. The shirts say, "Bring Tiffani home," and have a picture of the 21-year-old on the back. The family expressed frustration with the Cassia County Sheriff's Department. This is something that's very typical in these cases. Albert said she doesn't hear from them and that she has to go straight to the sheriff's office to get updates. Kevin Horak, a detective on the case, said the department has communicated with the family. Investigators have gone door to door, speaking with residents and business owners who say they may have spotted Straling, but every lead they've followed has been a dead end. At this point, we don't even know if we have a crime scene, Horak said. And of course, we talk about that in other cases. That's one of the most difficult aspects of missing persons cases. If you don't have a body necessarily found, where did this crime happen? And even in those cases, when you find a body, sometimes that's the dump location, not the actual crime scene. So it gets very tricky when you're looking into these cases. Still at magicvalley.com, now moving ahead to July 2nd of 2015, missing woman's boyfriend interviewed by police, lawyer says. A missing woman's boyfriend is a person of interest in her case, his defense attorney said Tuesday. McLaws, 33, of Hayburn, may also face misdemeanor battery charges in Bingham County. Tuesday's admit-deny hearing was for a parole violation involving past drug charges. So this guy that she was essentially moving in with, and I believe he was planning on possibly marrying her, has a pretty rough history, it looks like. We've got drug charges. We have battery charges in another county. Deputy Prosecutor McCord Larson sought at least $75,000 bond. McCord expressed concern, citing McLaw's tendency to evade the police. Keep that in mind as we roll forward here. District Judge Michael Crabtree set McLaw's bond at $75,000. So what happens from there? July 9th, 2015. What is that? That's only, we're talking a couple days later, a week, 1 week after. James McLaws had failed to appear in court and was on the run. He was captured about 11:30 p.m. Tuesday when a Twin Falls County Sheriff's deputy tried to stop a 1984 Chevy pickup on Kimberly Road when it swerved. McLaws sped up and turned onto Madrona Street, deputies said. He got out of the pickup while it was still moving and ran, and his truck continued forward and hit a parked car. Deputies searched the area and found McLaws hiding. As deputies held McLaws at gunpoint, he threw a black pellet gun, yelling, "It isn't real," a police report said. McLaws failed field sobriety tests but did not have alcohol in his system, the report said. McLaws told deputies he used marijuana 2 hours earlier and used meth about 7 hours earlier, the report said. What I'm curious of here is, are we seeing a normal trend from this guy? It seems like he's kind of coming apart at the seams. We've got some severe drug use going on. We have him running from the law, and he's carrying around a pellet gun for some reason. I mean, he ditched the vehicle and decided to bring this pellet gun with him. What the heck is going on? That almost sounds to me like he might have been considering what is known as suicide by cop, that he was going to pull the gun on them for them to take him out. Is he struggling with the truth of what he may have done? in this case? I don't know. So we go forward a little bit more. July 30th, 2015, new hearing slated for boyfriend of missing woman. A probation violation hearing for a Burleigh man has been moved to August 4th. He was scheduled to appear in court on Tuesday, but his lawyer, Dave Haley, didn't show up. For what I've seen in current news, that is no longer his lawyer. I don't know if this is the point where their relationship was going bad, but just to give you some sense of, there's just a lot of crazy activity going on around this guy. Facing cases in 3 counties, boyfriend of missing Burleigh woman will serve time, May 11th, 2016. So we have a bit of a jump in time here. Judge Michael Crabtree commuted James McLaw's sentence to 6 years in prison with 2 years fixed. July 2015 wasn't the only time McLaws fled from officers. In September of 2012, McLaws, who had an active warrant, led police on a chase on the interstate that clocked at more than 110 miles per hour. He wrecked his car in a field east of the 500 West overpass and took off on foot. So apparently he's not new at police chases and ditching his vehicle. Less than 3 years later, in May 2015, McLaws was dating then 21-year-old Streling. As the 1-year mark of her disappearance approaches, Streling, now 22, has yet to be found. There were rumors that placed her in Washington, Canada, and Arizona. Nothing checked out. The last person to see Streling will spend at least 2 years in prison. And at this point, I just want to point out, if you're someone out there that has information on this and for some reason you're afraid that James might be able to get to you or do something to you, right now we know that at least just for this prison term that we've talked about so far, which I believe there's an additional one that's been tacked onto him since then, he's going to be in jail at a minimum for another year. So if you have information about this case that you want to get in, but you have fears about getting it in, please try to work through those fears. Get the information into someone that can act on this and keep this guy in prison if that's really where he's supposed to be, if he is truly involved in this case. Now is one of your best times for staying safe when it comes to passing that information forward. So if you're someone out there that does know something, I'm literally begging you, please step up, do the right thing. Don't have it hanging over your head for the rest of your life that you could have done the right thing when the time was right, which is now, and have to deal with the stress of knowing that you didn't do the right thing and help someone in need. Another article at Magic Valley, May 13th, 2016, missing woman's family to hold vigil honoring anniversary of disappearance. Family, friends, and the community will remember Tiffani Streling on Saturday night as they gather for a vigil at Lex Canoe Park along the Snake River. McLaws was at one point considered a person of interest according to his attorney in July 2015, but Cassia detectives don't consider him one now. This is what I'm talking about. Now we're getting some information, at least published, saying that he is no longer a person of interest. The 34-year-old picked up a 4-year prison sentence out of Twin Falls, concurrent with a 2-year sentence from Cassia County. So what I was saying before about him still being in jail for a year, it looks like at least a year. It looks like that's more like 2 to 3 years that he's still going to be in prison. Plenty of time for them to process a case against him if you're hopefully the person that has the information to help here. May 16th, 2016, still missing. Tiffani Straling's family looking for answers 1 year later. Straling's mother, Melissa Belt, and stepfather, Don Belt, have remained out of the public eye largely to tune out rumors of their daughter's fate and to cope with the uncertainty in private. The devastation of not knowing what happened to Streling nearly destroyed their marriage and caused Melissa to suffer 2 nervous breakdowns. Now she's getting help, and she and Don are speaking for the first time about their daughter's disappearance. The two have spent a great deal of time trying to piece together the murky details of the day Streling went missing. Their conclusion on what happened to her is grim. Quote, "We think she went to the landfill," Don said. Don said the two went to Cassia County Detective Kevin Horak about their suspicions, but were told that employees at the landfill in Burleigh check every bag. but they weren't sold on that. And quite honestly, look at the Corey McKeague case. Landfills, it seems like it's their own world with different operations. And just because you have a policy that employees are supposed to check every bag, I don't think many people could say for certain that they know that's actually happening. A week after Streling went missing, there were 2 searches at a spot along the Snake River in Heyburn known as The Tree. After one of these searches, James McLaws, Straling's boyfriend, came over to the Belts' home for dinner. McLaws told the Belts he went with Streling to her father's home to take some belongings back to his apartment. Jordan De Philippis, Straling's ex-boyfriend, was hiding in her closet to stop her from moving in with McLaws, Don said. McLaws told them that Straling's father, William Streling, kicked De Philippis out of the house, and then the remaining 3 watched a movie before McLaws and Streling left, Don said. So just a little bit of a weird situation we have going on here, and it certainly is pointing back to this theory that there is a love triangle, that maybe her relationship with her ex-boyfriend was really not cleanly severed, as some versions of this story are saying. And to me, that's a pretty odd move, man, for someone to hide in a bedroom closet to try to stop her from moving in with this guy. Obviously, there's still some strong feelings there. McLaws told them that De Philippis followed him home and confronted him, Don said, and that Streling yelled for them to settle things on their own and went inside, supposedly for a shower, is what I've read in some places. The 2 went to a boat dock along the river in western Cassia County, not far from the Belts' home. McLaws told them that the 2 discussed De Philippis's past relationship with Streling, and then he dropped off the ex-boyfriend at Storybook Park in Burleigh, Don said. While Don tried to get more information out of McLaws, Straling's sister said something that may have stopped the boyfriend from talking, he said. Don told her to be quiet, and that's when McLaws lost it and took off. Quote, he blew up and said, "You don't talk to women that way," Don said. Once again, is this a tell because he is reacting to what he considers a bit of a violent mode against women? Is that some type of backlash after knowing what he had done to her? Or is this just an honest moment where he's trying to make a point? I really don't know. It's hard to tell. There's some additional information in this. Of all the articles, I highly recommend that you check this one, the one titled Still Missing and dated May 16th, 2016. I've seen this happen in cases a lot before. When you get some hindsight on things and they get better access to family members, more information seems to come out in a bit of a more easy to understand fashion. This article is one of the best ones that has some of those additional details that we haven't heard in the previous ones. Family still searching for missing Burleigh woman. This is at kmvt.com. It looks like it is a local television station out there. Last week was Tiffani Straling's birthday. The 23-year-old Burleigh woman went missing almost 2 years ago. This is in April of 2017 that this was published. But that didn't stop her family from having a party for her. "We had a barbecue and a cake," said William Streling, Tiffani's father. "With money the community raised for them, they have certified dogs to search for hints of where Tiffani went. The dogs will be ready in a few weeks. In the meantime, William practices with a softball team for a season dedicated to Tiffani. The team will bear the name and image of his daughter." Once again, he's just doing everything he can to keep awareness raised to this case. And that's just another reason why I felt compelled to bump this case up and to feature it so quickly. I just want to help keep awareness raised to this as much as I can as well. So I went looking for information about the search dog. There is a video segment here about it, but it doesn't really let you know of anything that was found in particular. So I couldn't find any direct results where, maybe they had a hit on something in a spot that they thought could have been related to her. Back to magicvalley.com. This is an article from the 2-year anniversary of her disappearance, and just noting that her family and police aren't giving up hope. Here we get another timeline with a little bit more information. So just bear with me if you think this is a little redundant. There's some new tidbits that come out in this. May 16th, 2015, the last family members to see Tiffani were her father and stepmother, Stephanie Albert. Tiffani was living with them and went to their home to get her belongings so she could move in with her new boyfriend, James McLaws. As a young woman, Tiffani struggled. She had some minor scrapes with the law. She suffered from bouts of anxiety and depression. The depression had set in after the death of her 1-month-old daughter, Sapphire, in November of 2013. Tiffani and her baby's father, Jordan DeFilippis, had broken up but remained emotionally close. That day, as she gathered her things at her father's home, Tiffani found DeFilippis hiding in her closet where she kept Sapphire's belongings. When Tiffani and McLaws left the house at 3:30, she told Streling and Albert that she and McLaws would be back at 5:30 for dinner. No one could get a hold of her after that, Albert said. At 10:30, McLaws came back to their house upset and said Tiffani was missing. Now, at this point, I just want to say, and it's tough because I don't know if this information is being presented or if this question was even asked, but is this the first point where they heard that she was actually missing? Because if James was looking for her and she was legitimately missing, wouldn't one of the first things that you would do is call the last known location where she was living, the place where she's literally moving out of to come live with you, and check in with her parents and say, hey, is Tiffani there? So I'm just curious, the way that this is being told, it makes it sound like this is the first time her parents are hearing about it. And this is at 10:30 at night. The last time they saw her was around 3:30. You've got a 7-hour gap going on here. So I don't know. I'm pretty suspicious of this. He said DeFilippis had followed him and Tiffani to his house, and DeFilippis confronted him. He said Tiffani told the two men to work it out, and she went to take a shower. McLaws said he and DeFilippis drove to a boat dock where they talked about Tiffani's relationship with DeFilippis. McLaws said he then dropped DeFilippis off at Storybook Park. At the Stralings' home that night, McLaws told them, quote, "I didn't mean to hurt her," Albert said, and that Tiffani had left his home to walk a few blocks to her best friend's house. Streling and Albert went to the Cassia County Sheriff's Office the next day to report Tiffani missing, but were told that McLaws had already reported her missing within hours after her disappearance. So once again, this question I have about did he contact them or not, to me is very, very important. And if you are in that community, if you happen to know this family, if there is one piece of information that would help clarify possibly some intent that's going on here, it's this one question. When did he contact them about her missing? When's the first time they heard about it? Because if he went as far as going down to the police station to file a missing persons report, but he didn't talk to them first, that is extremely suspicious to me. It could be that he did, but I'm just telling you guys, that piece of information in terms of this timeline is really, really critical for me understanding his intent, which is something I'm always looking at when I'm looking into these cases. So that's it pretty much for the case. There is a podcast at truecrimeandmysteries.com based specifically on this case. I've listened to several pieces of several episodes on this. They are essentially trying to reinvestigate it for themselves. They're going to the locations. They're trying some stuff out. I didn't find information that I thought was super compelling in terms of sharing it with you. But if you do want to dig into this case a little more, I will have a link to this podcast down below. There's also a bit of a discussion going on over at Web Sleuths about it. It looks like there's about 4 pages of discussion on this case. Most of them are just links back to these news articles, but of course, as usual, all the links in the description box below. But this is where I turn it over to you, Brain Scratchers. What is going on with this case? Is media so focused on her boyfriend that we've lost sight of some of the realities or of what is going on here? Do you think that the police are truly not considering him a person of interest anymore? Or for some reason, they're just stating that publicly, maybe to back this media heat off of this investigation? Because I got to tell you, if I was on the ground in Idaho trying to figure this out, I'd be talking to all his friends. I'd be trying to figure out what was their favorite hangouts, particularly any in the country. I know that the investigators on the podcast I mentioned, they looked at some local water sources, trying to determine if there was accurate depth or a deep enough water source to try to be a good place to potentially hide her. It really seems to me, at least with the way this information is presented, that James probably had something to do with this. And I really hope that if someone's out there with that information, that you do the right thing and get it in now while you're safe, while they can process it, and hopefully get it done so that they can keep this guy in jail if he really did do something to Tiffani. But outside of all that, is there a possibility that she took off on her own? You know, it looks like she was having some turbulence in her life, and going through losing a child can really scar some people emotionally. I don't think that we can completely give up on that aspect. We have seen some cases where people just decided to leave their lives, and they, police eventually find them and contact them years later, and they say, yes, I'm here, but I still don't want that information to go back to my family about where you found me. Just please leave me alone. I think there is a small chance that that could be going on in this case. Did something potentially happen to her when she was walking to her friend? Was she in distress? Someone noticed, took advantage of the situation, and did something to her or with her? I don't know. I think that's another thing that needs to be considered. But if you can get that answer, that really key question that I mentioned earlier, when did he contact the parents? Did he file that police report before he contacted the parents? That would really turn my head in the direction of thinking James did something to her, probably hid her somewhere, and then was the person to file the report because he was going to try to make sure to keep the heat off of him. And consider the relationship this guy has with police. I mean, he's constantly getting in trouble just from the information that we've reviewed. Why is he going to turn to them and file a report that same night? I mean, why is he going to be the one to do that at all? How does he know that she was truly missing? What if she just went to a different friend's house, someone that he didn't know about? What if she went to her ex-boyfriend's? Was he contacted by James? It really seems to me that if someone would dig into some of those aspects, that they would get a very clear picture of what direction that they should look in. And I'm hopeful that the investigators on this case are indeed doing that. But it gets really tough, particularly when you have practically no physical evidence. I mean, did they ever look in James's house? Did they look for signs of a struggle? According to the information we have, I can't really find anything that states that they did that. So it's tough to know. So tell me what you think about it in the comments below, Brain Scratchers. If you find more information on this, please share links with us in the comments below as well. And my heart goes out to her family to have already faced the tragedy, particularly her parents and her step-parents, to have faced the tragedy of losing a grandchild and then to lose their mother very soon after that must be a really, really tough thing to deal with. And I'm just hopeful that they are doing their best to support each other and to keep moving forward in this investigation. They deserve the answer, and I'm hopeful that it's coming their way. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of BrainScratch Searchlight. I appreciate each and every one of you that watch this show. Please do me a favor. If you have friends in the Idaho area, please share this video with them. Let's raise exposure. Let's try to get this video seen by that person that might have the information. If you're that person, look in the description box. The contact info is down there. Get that information into the right place. If there's some reason why you can't call the police, find a way to contact me. Get that information to me, and I'll see what I can do. I've done this in cases before. I know sometimes people are afraid to directly go to the authorities, and I'm not really seeing any other information for Crime Stoppers or anything like that. So take care, everyone, and I'll see you on the next show on the Lord and Arts channel.